What is happening, guys? Welcome back to Red Beard's Garage. And on today's episode, we're continuing with the build of our 2021 Honda Talon. So we're going to be taking off this puny stock front bumper. We're going to be installing one of the Super ATV's heavy duty bumpers, as well as tucking in a 6,000 pound winch back here with a synthetic rope. So we're going to be installing this low profile front bumper from Super ATV. They have a bunch of different styles, and they have these for almost every side-by-side and some for some ATVs on their website. It is powder coated finish, super nice. I went with the low profile. You can get a different style that has eyebrows that come up and kind of protect the whole headlight, but I thought this look suited what I was going for with our Talon. It does come with all the bolts you're going to need to install this. We're also going to be installing their 6,000 pound Super ATV Black Ops winch. This has a synthetic rope. It comes with everything you need to install it, every nut, bolt, every wire, and it's actually a really quick install on this Honda Talon because most of the wires are already in place. So we had to go with the winch mount for the front end. This will bolt in behind the front bumper. We do have to drill a couple holes in the front bumper, but other than that, super straightforward. Make sure to check out all these links for these parts and parts we're going to be using in the video description. They do help us out a ton. And Super ATV, so far this build has been like super smooth. Everything's went into place, and I expect no different with this front bumper. All right, so to get our front bumper ready, before we install it on the vehicle, we need to drill some holes for our fair lead bracket. So this is going to be what houses the cable, and the cable is going to run through this. So to do that, whether you're running a stock bumper or the aftermarket one, this would be no different. You're going to do the same process. So you can see these top bars here. We're going to take and measure a ½ inch from this bar and make us a mark on each side. So got ½ inch there. ½ inch there. Now we can take these 90-degree brackets with the single hole up top. We can line it up with that ½ inch mark. We're just going to trace the hole. Do the same thing over here. Now we need to drill this out to 11/30 seconds. I'm going to center punch mine first, and then just drill these out, and then we can bolt in our fair lead bracket. Make sure to blow out or vacuum out all the shards from inside there. So we have these 90-degree brackets. Make sure to deburr your holes, and we can clean up our marks with some brake cleaner or something off. We're going to set these 90-degree brackets with the double holes facing down, and we're going to slide in some of these long bolts down through like that on each side. Then we can take our fair lead bracket. As you see, it has 2 threaded holes. These come with grease factory in them just to keep it from burring up on you. And we're going to set that from underneath with the opening for the fair lead facing forward. So we're going to look at our fair lead bracket from the front, make sure we have it centered in the hole, then we can tighten up all the fasteners. So we have our aluminum fair lead bracket that comes with our 6,000 pound Black Ops winch. We're going to lay it in there, use the bolts and nuts shown on screen. Slide the Allen heads from the front down into the fair lead bracket. Put our nuts on from the back. And now our bumper is ready to be installed on our Talon. Remove the 5 bolts on each side of the bumper to remove it from the vehicle. So they've stripped this bolt from the factory. So I'm gonna try to hammer this Allen in there to get it in there good enough. and hopefully we don't have to use an extraction kit, but that sucks. Good job, dealer. And she stripped. Now we can slide our new bumper in. We're going to reuse our stock bolts on the bottom side. Just get them finger tight in place. You may have to use a rubber mallet and knock the bumper back until you get these holes lined up. Now we got our winch bracket. You can see these ears are going to use these two bolt holes. So the kit does come with the longer bolts to compensate for this. So we can slide this winch mount right into here. Get it all lined up. So everything's going to be a super snug fit. Get our bolts lined up. So we have this clamp here that's going to clamp around the frame. We're going to get our included hardware started on both sides. Then we can start tightening up everything all together. Use the 8 bolts included in the hardware kit to install the clamps onto the winch mount. So we're going to use the stock hardware on this little plastic shroud here. And of course now we have to find a bolt to replace the one that the dealer cross-threaded. Now repeat the process on the other side. So with our winch mount installed, we can slide our new 6,000 pound winch in from this way. Kind of got it in. We're going to get it lined up with the outer bolt pattern. Use our included hardware and go in from the rear and start the bolts. So we got it installed. It was really hard to show you guys the bolts. They're tucked in there, and I had to use a stubby 13mm wrench on the two bottoms. It's almost impossible to show you on camera. The bolts are tucked back in there. But I do like on this winch how the knob on the side to put it in free spin mode is so large. It's like super high quality. So now we just got to put our hook on there and then we can start wiring it. So we're going to install our hook. We got to cut that zip tie and we got to put our winch in free spin. I have to pull out some because I got to guide it. Tuck it back in here. Tuck this hook back in through there. There we go. Now we can bend our clip in. So we have our hook on there. Then we can take our Super ATV little grabber, slide that on. Now last thing is we need to put our bumper on here. And what this is going to do is stop when it hits that. So it's two pieces. We're going to lay it just like that. Lay the other side. Then we have some stainless hardware. Just going to slide 4 Allens down in there and tighten up the nuts. With our bumper installed, we can let this just hang until we get power hooked up. We can draw it back in. So we're going to pop our hood on the Talon, set it aside. So now we got to mount this control box. Most people mount them just right here because the hood won't interfere with it, but I am going to be running a secondary battery box. So what I may do is mount it right here for right now. Then when my battery box gets here, I can mount it on the bottom of the battery box in this location. So I may have to move this, but that's fine. So I'm gonna get this marked, drill some holes in this piece of steel, use the included bolts and nuts. We'll have that mounted, we can start wiring it up. So what I'm gonna do is, this side's really hard to get to because of the studs. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and drill my first hole, and then I'm gonna bolt this up and mark this other side since I can get to it to mark it. So I'm just gonna look at the height that needs to be and just go ahead. And I do have a 90-degree drill, but standard drill would work as well. So we're gonna lay the bolt in there with the lock washer and washer on it. Go ahead and slide it in. Then I can mark my hole. Now we can get this box bolted up using the long Phillips head screws, nuts, washers, and lock washers. So there's this little mud deflector that's back here. If we pop this side of the clips out, there's a red and a black wire back here that we can plug up to our winch power in. So we're going to pop a couple of these clips out. So once we get a couple of those clips out, we can easily pull this up without ripping it over these tabs. The blue connector there is going to be our key switch power, the white wire coming into it. So what I'm going to do is unplug the dummy plug out and pin it with a lead coming out of it to go to our toggle switch, the red wire on our toggle switch. And then if you look back in there, you'll see a red and a black wire. Those will be our ground and hot. So those will go to our red and black studs on our winch box. So the red and black wire is held on with a clip up on the chassis, and they're also taped up, but they're not connected to the fuse box. We'll show you that at the end. So I'm gonna pop that clip out and get those red wires pulled up here. So you can see all I did was took my clip tool and pried this off. You'll see there's a ground and a hot right here, and they're perfectly long enough to reach this box where we put it. So what I'm gonna do is tuck this underneath this splash guard, and then before I put the splash guard back up, remember I gotta tie into that plug. So I'll unplug that connector down there and show you how we can pin it out. So here's the dummy plug that came off the Talon. Now it's going to be on the chassis like this, and the white and black wire is the key switch hot. So what I've done is taken a piece of 16 gauge wire and crimped a clip on a pin that'll snap right in here. Now if you go on Amazon, I've linked all this stuff below, you can get a kit of these waterproof connectors. There's male and females. So the male pin, which looks like this, that comes with these kits, will actually snap right into these factory Honda plugs. So what I did was crimped one of these males onto the wire because the harness side is a female, crimped it, and then these also come with some tiny little waterproof grommets. You'll have to push the factory one out of the Honda grommet. This is just a plug so water won't get in that harness. This wiring kit will come with these with a hole in it. So after you crimp your wire on, you slide this on, and then it slides in one way and will snap. So now that's in there. We left the plug on the opposite side. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. We left the plug on the opposite side. We have that yellow seal in there. So now this is still waterproof, and it plugs up to a factory Honda plug. You can buy, I'll put a really small kit of these, and they're super handy with working on side-by-sides and stuff because they're 100% waterproof connectors. You can get like triple wire plugs. You can get even the single ones. Super handy to have laying around the shop because this allowed us to plug right into the factory harness. Now what I'm going to do on this side is crimp on a bullet connector, male, so I can have a female bullet connector on my switch side of the harness. Now we got our bullet connector on there. we can crimp this female side on the harness for the toggle switch. So now we can snap our harness back onto the roll cage tab, plug our harness back up, and now we have our key switch power wire ready to be installed. Now we'll just tuck this hot and ground underneath this. We can get it ran up here to our box. So we got the red and the black wire that's factory ran plugged up. Now we just have the yellow and the blue. And Super ATV gives you all this in the kit. So now what I'm going to do is bolt these to the box and run them down to the winch. Everything's color coded. You can see right there on the end, this is the blue connector. The one down there is the yellow. We're going to run them down really nice and neat. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and tape them out, like where the leads meet each other and stuff. And I'm going to loom these so you don't see a yellow and blue cable running up my chassis. So we're just going to run them down through there, tuck them away from everything and get them plugged up. Then we can put our rocker switch in. So this is extremely hard to film, so I just did it off camera and going to show you guys how I ran everything. You can see we have the box mounted. We have all the wires hooked up. Now they're, like I said, all the studs are color coded, and then of course the wires, but I ran those wires down on the back side of the radiator to make sure they didn't touch the radiator, and they're up and out of the way of the A-arms. Everything's zip tied in place, so it'll never get down into the A-arm. You can see it's wrapped around. I did do some really nice mesh loom on that and did marine heat shrink. So that's all. You will have to cut these a length, which you'll have a few feet left over, and that's some good wire. So it's really nice, but this is up out of the way. Nothing's going to hit that. And like I said, it looks all factory under the hood. Like we push this back, everything looks super nice and out of the way. So now that we have everything installed, we can put our toggle switch plate from Super ATV. This just lays in, comes with Phillips head screws. We'll just screw it in. But before we install this, we need to drill a hole back here, and I'm going to use a 3/4 inch drill bit to do so to run our wire. Real nice, Clark. So now we're going to take, I want my winch switch to be all the way on the passenger side because I'm not going to use it often. This is a Honda, let's face it, I'm not going to get stuck. And we got sound bar and headlights and stuff to go over here. So I'm going to pop this little dummy plate out. Not strong enough. Okay. And we're going to take our switch, run it through the front of the plate. And the red wire on this switch is going to go to that key switch hot that I showed you we tied into. So we'll run this. So we need to make sure we put it the correct way in there. Tight like a tiger. Oh, that's really nice. So what I can do now is feed this harness in. I'll grab it on the other side and I'm going to pull the slack out. So I'm going to leave this little bit of slack right here because if I ever want to pull, which we'll be pulling this out in just a few days to add more accessories. So I'm going to leave that slack inside there so I know we have enough slack inside so we can zip tie everything else on the inside. Look at that, look at that. So the last thing that we have to do is open up the fuse box. That hot and ground is not connected from factory. Just got to connect it and plug in the box up front, and we are winching other people out because like I said, we got a Honda, we ain't gonna get stuck. Cue the time we got stuck. So this harness is going to plug in only one way, and then of course we screw it in to keep it from unplugging. And then we need to crimp on our other bullet connector that's going to plug up to the one we crimped on that factory harness. So I'm just going to zip tie this along like that, like I said, and then kick it over in there because again, we're going to be adding a battery box. What I figured we'd do is mount this control box on the bottom of our battery box when we put our new battery box in. I left enough slack and everything to do that. So this right here, we're under the driver's side rear. This is your like electrical box. This is where your battery is. We got 4 little clips, and a whole bunch of mud. Oh yeah. I'm gonna pop that out, slide it out, and there is your Japanese battery. So up here we have some wires that are not connected, and it's tucked around the back here. We have the taped up hot wire, that blue tape. We're gonna untape this and then hook it up to this side of the starter solenoid. So we got that wire untaped and hooked up to the left-hand prong of the starter solenoid. We're just tightening it down with a 10mm wrench. Put our cap over as much as we can. Pop this relay. Now before we shut this up, let's go test it. So it should be switch power. So our button's lit up. So our winch is working. So we do have a wireless remote. If we hold both buttons, should power on when the red light's on. You can see. Oh, we need to lock our winch back in. Look at that. There we go. That was a super, it's easy, but it's not. It's easy, like everything bolted up together really nice. And oh, and by the way, to turn off this remote, you just hold down both buttons again till the red light goes off. But it does come with this wireless remote. So if you're by yourself, you're trying to pull the players out because you're in a Honda, you're not stuck. You stuck? We got a working winch, baby. Well, I'm super pumped with that bumper. It looks way better than that factory one. That factory one actually is pretty rinky dinky. It's like super thin metal. It wouldn't protect anything. So I am gonna add some stuff to this bumper later. I'm gonna add some mesh to protect my radiator because I'm afraid a stick could go through it. So I'm gonna do some heavy mesh, and I may powder coat the bumper later to the same red as this Honda. I don't know, I do like the black. I think I like the low profile better than the full bumper, but it's all super nice, high quality. Everything went on. The only thing that was frustrating was bolting up the winch to the winch plate. Not Super ATV's fault. The diff is literally right here, and one bolt took me 20 minutes. It was the lower driver's side bolt on the winch, bolting the winch to the plate. But other than that, it went on super easy. And wiring's always frustrating, getting the wires ran down. But make sure to check out these links for these parts in the video description. We have everything that we're going to be installing, parts we've already installed. This thing is becoming a proper unit, and on the next video we'll be installing the rear bumper and the trailer hitch. So stay tuned for that. We surely appreciate it. This Honda's getting better with every video, and we can't wait to see the final result. We love you guys. We thank you for supporting us, and God bless.